What's going on? Allegedly I am live, but I don't see myself on the screen yet. Good morning. Good evening. Whatever time it is, wherever you're watching. I think I'm coming on the screen. Awesome. Well, hello everyone. So let me just mute myself on my YouTube screen. This is like the first for real live stream, so let's get this started. Let me know in the chat if you're seeing me. That would be helpful. So the schedule for today is we're going to be looking at plugins with ChatGPT. I've got a selection of about 10 that I found particularly useful. Then we're going to be getting into the Worlfram Alpha plugin. I'm putting this guy separately because Worlfram Alpha does calculations, and absolutely, like, this is the only plugin that I would say add something to ChatGPT that you couldn't achieve in Google no matter how much you tried, right? And then there's the browser plugin, which is in general adding website links to ChatGPT. That can be interesting and useful. It's also the least reliable one. And after that, we're going to basically freestyle it. I have on my website got a collection of like really cool prompts that I've gotten from elsewhere, some that I've created myself, and one is going to be sort of showing off the powers of GPT-4, and the other one is my favorite. This is, after all, a channel called Coding with GPT, and this one essentially allows you to set GPT-4 to play a role where it's a bit of a coding expert and do cool stuff with it. So we're going to do some animations, greeting cards, even possibly make a game. We'll see how we're going on time. We plan to finish in, say, an hour to an hour 15 minutes. So the streams will all be between an hour and a half, but I'm kind of aiming for the 75 minute mark. Let's get the show on the road. So click transition, zinga. Okay. So here's what I'd like to do. Get started with, first of all, maybe I should introduce 𝗥𝗘𝗣𝗢𝗙. This is a little web app I've created together with the help of 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗗𝗏, who's in the chat. It essentially allows you to collect prompts. And all of the prompts that we're going to be showing off today are inside this applet. The link to it is going to be in the stream. I should be able to send you guys the link in the chat. I don't know if it's clickable. YouTube's sort of limiting me with the clickability of the links because it's a brand new channel. So first thing we're going to look at is a plugin called Speak. Now, this thing does translation as opposed to speak. It doesn't exactly speak. I've got a little link for each of these, by the way. So yeah, my wife is Chinese and I've got my in-laws here. Oh my God, did this like open up? This looks different from the last time I used it. Anyway, Speak is purported to basically translate and allow you to say stuff. So if I click on Speak, I think this is only going to it's only a feedback form. But essentially, translate this for me has given me like 3, 4, 5 forms of translation. I actually checked with my wife. They're all pretty good. So it's a pretty good translate app. I wouldn't even call it an upgrade on Google Translate, but hey, it's not too bad. Let's take a look at the next plugin. It's called edX. And edX, I think, I'm not sure if it only looks for free courses, but edX is a search engine for reputable courses. And I think this one is actually pretty good. So I'm just going to go open up edX. By the way, I'm not running these live because every single one of these plugins takes approximately 2 minutes plus to actually load. So if I was running these chats properly live, we'd be waiting around a lot. So I have an interest in cybersecurity. I'm actually about to do a master's in it. So I'm actually checking some stuff I'm interested in. What are the leading cybersecurity courses from Australian universities? Now, it completely misses the boat on this one. It only gives me American stuff. So it's clearly not having an Australian database. But I mean, these are pretty reputable courses by pretty reputable organizations, and they're free, from 2 from IBM, 1 from MIT. But in the second chat, let's see if it's linked here, the second edX. I'm getting an Amazon cert called Certified Cloud Practitioner, and I'm asking it for a free course. And it literally gave me pure gold. So 2 official ones from AWS. It's got these nice little pop-up links. They weren't here yesterday, by the way. This is all new stuff. And this is from edX.org, self-paced. 4 weeks, 2 to 3 hours per week. This is a costly one. And this is a free one. Yesterday I only checked on the free one. I asked for free. Nonetheless, 2 to 4 hours a week, self-paced and free. This is a, pretty good choice. And another one that's on the same platform, done by IBM. So, like, if you're actually studying for industry certs or things that are commonly searched for, particularly in the US, edX is going to give you really, really good stuff. If you're looking for something more local to you, it's probably not having it in the database. Okay, back to here. Tasty recipes. So like, again, this is one where I struggle to find a reason why you would use this instead of just Googling a recipe, but all right. You also have sort of ChatGPT that's going to tell you a little bit more. So like, what do I do with this one? I asked for a gluten-free recipe for meatballs with some tomatoes, and it finds me chicken meatballs with a picture of it. And then it says it doesn't mention tomatoes, but you can add tomatoes. It's pretty, like, I'll say this is, the smart thing here is it actually reads the recipe and tells you, like, if it meets your needs, right? And if it misses them by a little bit, then hey, it tells that. Now, when I ask for bolognese pasta, it's actually, very much on the money, and it's got 3 versions and like 1 traditional one, 2 that have a bit of a twist. So yeah, tasty recipes, I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. Like, not bad. I mean, I'm about 50-50 on whether I'm going to use it, but hey. Vox Script. Now this one's very impressive. So like if I go into here and I open up Vox, the Vox Script plugin essentially gets transcripts from URLs of popular sites. So I gave it a transcript. I gave it my YouTube video, and it gave me the entire transcript and commentary on the transcript. So like I say a bunch of stuff, I can copy that. The way that this is formatted, you can use an extension called Superpower GPT. I keep turning it on and off because it sort of makes the ChatGPT interface a little bit glitchy. But you can just copy the markdown code for this, and it'll be really, really nicely formatted in a markdown file. But yeah, the entire transcript, and I've read through a lot of that. It's really, really accurately portrayed. So yeah, I think the Vox Script plugin's very, very useful. If you want a summary of a YouTube video, you can simply use that and ask it to give you a summary. In fact, I can ask that. Can you give me a 300-word summary of this script? While we wait for that, I will... Oh yeah, video title, beautiful, animated Mother's Day greeting card, GPT-4 in 15 minutes. It's a tutorial on creating a Mother's Day greeting card using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. By the way, I think I might put that in the chat. So I did that last week. I was simply testing my OBS to see if the video and audio work reasonably well. And I ended up doing a little bit more than that testing. So that's the Mother's Day greeting. I got 4 people watching. Why don't you guys say hi in the chat? And like, if you haven't liked the video already, do that. Okay. So that summary looks bang on the money. So yeah, if there's like a 1-hour YouTube video that you'd rather not watch, Vox Script's your way to go and get a summary and maybe watch it in the end. Who knows? So yeah, so those are some useful plugins that I've checked out. looking at the list again, I would say the Vox script is the most likely one for me to use. edX2 is the second most likely. Tasty recipes. The Speak one, again, I don't know. I don't feel like it improves. Oh, hi the Wood and Juice Box. I'm getting some comments in the chat. Yeah, I don't think Speak improves on Google Translate. It's whatever. All right, Worlfram. Now, the Worlfram Alpha plugin is actually like a game changer, you know, like to use cliche terms, game changer. Like, if you think about what the limitations of ChatGPT are, the data for GPT-4 is September 2021. For GPT-3, which is the free ChatGPT, is June 2020. It's able to answer questions that have answers in the internet data up to 2021, but it's not able to look things up, particularly things like statistics. Whereas Worlfram Alpha is both sort of a lookup table for verified published statistics and simply a system for doing calculations. So the strengths of Worlfram Alpha and the weaknesses of ChatGPT are aligned perfectly. So let me show you some of the stuff I've been able to do using Worlfram Alpha. By the way, this is also one of the more reliable plugins. Career advice. New chat. No, wait, what am I doing? AI. Worlfram. Okay. Suppose you have a resume and you need some career advice. The world's changing constantly, particularly in the domain of technology jobs. Things are going in and out of fashion. The needs are changing. It depends also on the country you're in. And again, I'm jealous of all the Americans because all the data here is most relevant to them. But I gave it my resume. It asked for a Google, it asked for an online link. And then I posted it. And so the plugin for doing that, I should probably add that to the thing, is called Ask Your PDF. And it reads the resume. And then I asked it, read the entire resume and tell me the top 5 best paid job titles that I'm qualified to do. Please try to provide an average salary for each of the job titles. And these are the following. So cybersecurity analyst, software developer, project manager, data scientist, IT consultant. And yeah, funnily enough, software developer, good old traditional software developer, is on average the highest paid of the lot. I wouldn't have guessed that. Although, no, sorry, data scientist. I might switch my masters. I don't know. I'll think about it. The thing is, I think it did this twice. And the second time around, actually, no, I would trust these answers more because these are actually sourced. I'm scratching my head a little bit to see why I've got 2 answers. I'll fetch the average salaries for these positions. So first it did one from just ChatGPT, and then it did Worlfram, sorry. And the update here was the software developer was indeed the best paid, and the data scientist not so much. So maybe scratch the data science. And this has sources. If we click the source, that is essentially what it did to look it up. And then you can look up more, people employed, workforce in action, median wage, 50% range. So if you can think about this sort of high level, live, real-time statistical analysis added with ChatGPT, this is mind-blowing. This is really, really cool. So yeah, if you're in school and doing an assignment, you can actually draw some very, very interesting conclusions and insights from something like Worlfram Alpha and ChatGPT that, will probably tell you something that, is way beyond any expectations of whoever is sending the assignment. Okay. You can ask it sort of some fun, silly questions. What if my salary beat inflation? Here's a good piece of career advice for everybody. Yeah, if your salary beats inflation by 5% every year, you're going to make a ton of money. So I asked Worlfram, it had to basically get the average it had to get the average inflation in Australia from 2007 to 2023. It had that data. Like apparently it had some gap years. And so when I said doing it every year, maybe it crashed because it had to do something like 16, I don't know, 2007 to 23. Yeah, 16. It had to do 16 lookups. Maybe that's too many lookups. But it did the average salary in the end. And, you know, it's an interesting little conclusion. So another random thing. I was teaching a class. So I do those on Friday afternoons. And it was, Python, Linux, and cybersecurity for high school kids. And one of the side topics was some kid showed some Python code for the Colab conjecture. I had no idea what a Colab conjecture was. So I figured I'd ask ChatGPT. And at that time, I was testing the plugins. So let's see. Can you please explain to me what the Colab conjecture was? So that was the explanation. But I had two. I had the Worlfram Colab conjecture. Yeah. And I asked for a visualization. And I got this beautiful thing. So the whole idea of the Colab conjecture, if I go back to the last one, is essentially you have a rule. If it's an even number, you have it. And if it's an odd number, you multiply it by 3 and add 1. And if you do that to any number, it will sort of fluctuate, go up and down, but eventually it'll end up as a value of 1. And so Wolfram gave me a visualization here. And then I asked for Python code to visualize it. And then I put this into pandas, and I was playing around with expanding this table and seeing more patterns. And that was a lot of fun. So like, if you want to understand a mathematical concept, like you can immediately get an explanation, a visualization, and you can get some Python code to try out, play with. So yeah, I think Wolfram again, plus ChatGPT is pretty amazing. Another problem, and we gave this in the Victorian Coding Challenge. There is a type of insect called cicadas. And cicadas are super interesting because they emerge every either like 13 or 17 years. And that has to do with prime numbers. And so like they essentially are dormant in the ground with they lay their larvae, and then there's like millions, hundreds of millions of them that come out of the ground like at the same time. And it happens on like 13 or 17 year cycles. And yeah, I asked it the problem. If two species of cicadas, one with 17-year cycle and another with 13-year cycle, both emerged in 2017, what year will they both emerge next, and how many times will they both emerge in the same year during this millennium? So there's a whole lot of like language to parse. There's a mathematical calculation. There's a lot of reasoning involved. And let's see how ChatGPT did on that. So first of all, it does the common multiple, which is 221. So that means they emerge every 221 years. And if you add 221 to 2017, you're going to get 2238, which is correct. So that's going to be the next emergence. And now in this millennium, it figures out what the millennium is, and it gets 3.44. And so the decimal won't count. So it's essentially 3. So they're going to be 3 emergences. So like, yeah, you can get it to do pretty much like every mathematical type problem that I've messed with, Wolfram plugin's been really, really, really good for. So yeah, last one thing, I don't know if I have it here, population of Australia. If you click that, you will go, Worlfram Alpha is going to give you really detailed stats on that. But yeah, it gives you the current population of every city. Shout out to Melbourne. I don't know that we want to catch up with Sydney. It's already crowded enough, but Melbourne's nice. I had no idea that essentially Brisbane and Perth were both around 2 mil. Adelaide, over 1 million people. If you go to Adelaide, you wouldn't think that. You'd think like it's 500,000. So yeah, it essentially looks up this table that's got all these detailed demographics of Australia. So there you go. That's Wolfram. So next, let's look at browsing. So browsing is essentially the best and the least reliable of all the GPT-4 plugins. Let's take a look at some examples. I will close these down. AI browsing promote website. So the website you're using is the website I've given it. The link, by the way, to all of the, I'll put it in the chat. Link to all the prompts used is going to be here. Prompts used. So the first thing I asked it, hey, study my website, provide me with a step-by-step set of instructions so I can promote the website and acquire my first 1,000 users. Basically reads it and talks about these things. Clearly define your audience. I think that's like the most important thing for me, because I don't think everybody is sitting there collecting hundreds of GPT-4 prompts. I think I'm looking for very specific people that are into this a lot, kind of like I am. And that's step number one that makes sense. Then SEO for the website. Sure, I haven't thought about that yet. Content marketing, I'm already doing that. I'm making these videos, kind of showing the usefulness of the site. So yeah, this is like, I would say, you know, it reads it, it figures out what the site is about. The advice is fairly generic, but I've had it read and summarize the site, which is pretty good. What's my next video? Channel content suggestions. Is it this one? Yeah. So I look at the AI news released and I look at the content on this channel so that it summarizes what the channel is about pretty well, but then it fails to read the second thing. And I think I've run this twice. No, I've only run it once. But what if you're using the browser right now, I'm sure this is going to get ironed out. It might take a week or a month. But if you're using the browser right now, it's probably going to fail like 50% of the time. So yeah, it gets, again, all the relevant info from the site, but it can't really fetch the AI news of the week. So then it kind of gives you fairly generic advice, but it's pretty good. Like tutorial on fine-tuning GPT models, different industries. Yeah, pretty generic. GPT-4 reasoning. This was frustrating. I've done this with like 3 different links. It can't seem to, I've gotten a very interesting answer. So it can't seem to browse. Like there's multiple articles. There's one from New Atlas, and I've tried another one from 𝗦𝗘𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗗𝗏 at Substack. There's multiple articles of people talking about GPT-4 doing reflection. So essentially giving an answer, reflecting on it, checking it, giving the answer again. That improves its performance like in every domain. So it's a bit like, let's do this step by step, or check your answer once you finished it before printing it, and then, you know, only then send it out. Long story short, it's unable to read these articles, which is super frustrating. But it's able to give me some really, really good prompts that would sort of show off its reasoning abilities. Imagine a situation where a mediator, conflict between 2 countries, how would you advise them to resolve their issues peacefully? You're an AI ethics consultant. How would you advise a tech company that wants to develop AI system, ensuring it's ethical and unbiased? So yeah, I think these prompts are pretty good. I can paste them in the chat if you want to try them. They'll probably be too unformatted and long. So actually I can only do 200 lines at a time. But yeah, browsing. If you haven't paid for GPT Plus, maybe wait a month until the browsing's sorted. This is going to be a game changer, but it isn't yet. It sucks at the minute. Okay, one prompt to rule them all. So my favorite AI YouTuber is a guy called Matt Wolf. He basically reads all the AI news. I think that's all he ever does, and then does like 10-15 minute summaries of everything that happened in the week. And I'm glad somebody does that, because I wouldn't have the energy for it. So one of my favorite videos of his was like he gives ChatGPT a prompt to generate top 10 prompts that show off the power of GPT-4. And I've ran that same prompt, and this is kind of what I got. I'll read some of these out, and then from here on in, we can go freestyle. We can run maybe a couple of these prompts, And then we can also, do some coding. So, story generation. Write a short story about time-traveling historian who accidentally changes history. Not bad. Role-playing. You're playing a detective in a noir film. I'm a mysterious stranger who just walked into the office. Let's start a dialogue. World building. Describe a planet where inhabitants communicate through music. Scientific explanation. Explain a concept of quantum entanglement to a 5-year-old. Yeah, I'd be curious to hear that. While I'm reading this, I'm actually going to ask that in a new chat. We'll go for a default chat. What are the ethical implications of artificial intelligence? He always asks that. Come on. Compose a poem about the beauty of mathematics. That could be an interesting one. Historical simulation. Imagine you're Leonardo da Vinci. Describe your thought process while painting the Mona Lisa. I think this is a good one. I'll put this one in the chat. You can try it out while you're watching this video. Tell me what it says. Translate the following English phrase to French. The spirit of discovery is the heart of humanity. Yeah, it's kind of tough to translate something like that. But this last one is probably the most interesting. Describe a day in the life of a person living a fully sustainable, technologically advanced city in 2123. Okay. I will run this one as well, but I'll read this. Kiddo, you remember your favorite pair of matching socks? Imagine no matter where you put those socks, they always know what the other one is doing. Quantum entanglement is a bit like that, where two tiny particles become linked in such a special way that no matter how far apart they go, they can instantly know what the other one is doing. If one sock turned blue, the other sock would know and turn blue too. They're in different rooms or even in different houses. This is really strange because it happens even faster than a phone call or a text message would take to travel. Scientists are still trying to understand exactly how this happens, but it's a very important part of quantum physics, which is science of really, really small things. It's a bloody good explanation. And personally, it's something like if we figure out, it would enable us to, have a intergalactic whatever civilization, because instantaneous communication is going to be hugely important as people travel huge distances. Okay. We were going to do the futuristic scenario, and then we were going to move on to actually doing some coding. Sure. Fully sustainable. Begins in their smart home using biophilic design principles, natural elements into the living space. Artificial sun gently illuminates the room. The walls are made of smart materials. Adjust insulation according to the temperature outside. And the smart window panels auto tint to regulate sunlight. Well, okay. They regulate sunlight, but there's also artificial sunlight. Gets ready for the day, displaying the day's schedule and the news headlines. The mirror even gives a quick health check, scanning Alex's vitals. Interesting. In the kitchen, Alex grabs breakfast from the hydroponic kitchen garden. Wow. So food grows in your house. House recycles water. Alex's coffee maker made from biodegradable whirls softly. The appliance is powered by the house integrated energy system. Solar panels and wind turbines. Instead of getting in a car, Alex steps into the PRT pod. So there's pods, no cars, like sort of public transport style thing. Cityscape is a mix of green spaces and architecture. Vertical farms are everywhere. Solar panels, drones are overhead. Yeah. Alex is an urban ecologist working in the city's green lungs. Bloody hell. I mean, this is... Seriously, if this came out in a magazine written by a sci-fi writer like 2-3 years ago, we'd be impressed. Okay. Rock and roll. Let's move on to the fun part. I just have one thing to show off here, and then we can try some random stuff. Maybe you guys can give me some suggestions of what to do in the chat. So you can essentially ask GPT-4. Now we're done with plugins and the browsing. We're going to do a little bit of coding. You can ask GPT-4 to respond in a specific format. And my favorite is to do it in a website format, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. But there are other ways. Like you could do JSON, which is really, really useful. Like if I did JSON when I was doing that AI trivia quiz. So if it gives you like questions in a JSON format, you could just basically plonk them into a program without any editing or modification. And then, you know, you can even ask it to write the code to display the JSON. The SVG is like, I think it's, I don't know, simple vector graph. I don't know what S stands for, but yeah, it's vector graph. This is really, really neat. I'll show you this. SVG graphics request. So I asked it, I'll click on a SVG viewer. So I asked it to draw a little teddy bear. Just put an SVG format. So that was the prompt that was on the screen, convey information in a visual manner. And I said, create an SVG graphic that symbolizes colorful teddy bears that my 7-month-old daughter would like. Okay, it did this. Where's my SVG viewer? It's tiny. There you go. Looks like a teddy bear. But I'm like, hey, that's too small. Excellent. Can you make a graphic bigger? And also the teddy bear currently has a head. And can you add body and legs? And then where I end up was, and you can download this. It's a viewable file. So yeah, I don't know why the teddy bear has a goatee, but that's a pink teddy bear. That's kind of cute for kids. And it symbolizes that. I thought I was really, really impressed. So yeah, we can ask it some more questions. Like we can really be, we can try something kind of wild and unlikely to work. So I remember when I asked it to like summarize my website, let's ask it to make a logo in SVG. All right. So we start off with the same prompt. Sometimes I just add respond only with yes if you understand. Because the reason I say this is it might answer a full page and then you'll have to wait longer and then it'll just add to your context window. So the key is if you think you'll have a long query, you wanna basically have it respond only with one word to these setup prompts. It just makes things go faster. Yeah, that's cool. All right, I think it understood though. Okay, can you create an SVG image? Can you create the content of an SVG image that is going to symbolize, that is going to represent a logo for a website called Go Prompt. The logo should contain a robot and, or maybe it should contain text boxes. Text boxes that look cool. I don't know. I even have no idea what I'm saying here, but let's see what it does. Okay, so SVG is essentially, you sort of define elements. Yeah, this will be interesting. It'll probably be terrible. Here we go. Go prompt. Okay. I'll take it. All right. I'm probably on less than 15, or certainly less than 20 prompts left for today. So now we're going to go to the cool part. Respond in a web page format or the JavaScript animator. Like, let's try to do that. Let's try to, you're perfect at taking word-based description of an animation or presenting them in web format using HTML. Do you understand? Answer with yes or no. Do you understand your role? So let's try to define what we're doing here. I want to create an explosion. That would be really cool. JS, CSS. And what is a really simple game that might already exist where you could simulate an explosion? I would like to create the simplest space invader game possible with one single invader, one hero ship, and the game is over when either the invader reaches the bottom or the hero shoots the invader. When the hero shoots the invader, there should be a big explosion. The invader, there should be a big explosion. Remember to answer with HTML plus CSS plus JS. This should be interesting. I think it'll just give me one file, which is just easier than to worry about files. See, it's inserting the CSS style into the HTML. So it'll also insert a script as well. If you're actually serious about making a game, you would separate out the JavaScript and the CSS. Oh, it separated out the JavaScript, but it put the CSS inside it. Okay, all right. We'll see where it heads. I am curious if I send you the link. I don't know if these chats are public. I will post a link in the chat to this chat, or maybe I'll post a link to the REPL. I'll open up. Replic's been sort of letting me down. It's a bit slow right now. HTML, CSS plus JS. All right, we'll create this. Okay. So in order to do this, it's pretty easy. You post the HTML into this. We will expand. Then what you do is you copy the JS code. It's referring to as game.js, so we're going to rename this guy. And we're going to open it, paste that. I'm going to look at it for a little bit. So we have a function to move the bullet. We have a function to fire a bullet. But is the invader an object? There's an event listener, move invader. So invader is like invader is an HTML element. All right. So this should be, yeah, I think. Oh my God. Oh, well, it works. You win. Okay, there are no explosions. I have a feeling like really? This is your CSS? Okay. Oh, I can move with the arrows? All right. That's not a bad start. The game actually works. let's see if we can improve on that. Hey. Okay. Can you please use CSS and JS and JS if you need to program an explosion when the invader collides with the bullet. Also, the invader will regenerate 10 times before eventually the game is over. Okay. Please respond with the new code. The other thing that we could mess around with is try to add some game elements. But I love how fast it's answering today. It must be like a low time in terms of busyness around the world. It's a good time to do the stream, hey. Okay, so I basically need to keyframes explosion. All right. I need to add this to the style. Here we go, here we go. Let's hide this completely. We're gonna go to, wait. What's the point of style when it's putting everything in the index? Dot bullet. Okay, so dot explosion. So far, so good. Then let's take a look. Let invader lives equals 10. Okay, so that's some sort of a global. We'll stick that up the top. And function fire bullet. Function fire bullet is the same. Function move bullet. This is weird. So it's putting, let's move the bullet upwards. So fire bullet, the move bullet function is going to be inside the function fire bullet. Like if you look at this, fire bullet is here. It will not close until like the move bullet goes here. So essentially what it does is combines these two functions into one, the fire bullet and the move bullet. Yeah, so the move bullet function ends there. If game over. All right, I'm gonna rewrite all this. I'm nervous about that. Like I would never put a function inside a function. I think it's just bad coding. But right now I'm only concerned if it works. Let's go. Run. Where's my guy? The screen is moving. Ah, it's not firing. Yeah. This is GPT for fail. Okay. We need to give it some feedback now. Can you please read through your code? There is a problem as no bullets are fired when I press space. Before you answer, review your answer, and if you are not and if you don't think it's likely, and if you think it might have some issues, regenerate. Okay, this is reflection. This vastly improves the performance, supposedly. The worrying thing is it didn't take longer. Like, it should take longer to answer this. But let's see. It's giving me more or less the full code response. The invader should move left and right. That's the next thing that we're going to fix. Change the way the bullet position is calculated and updated. All right. That seems like your whole file. 80 lines? Yep. Will it actually pop out? Replit is really bad today. I don't... 𝗦𝗘𝗣𝗢𝗚 computer. It's not really... This should work. What is another... Oh. I think I need to be in a window that's large enough. Okay. We need to go back to essentially a time where the bullet shooting worked. Yeah. Okay. We need to go back to this. And start a brand new chat, because that'll give us a brand new context window. So if we give it this JS and this index, we can delete style.css, delete that. And while I'm at it, I mean, let's get some game assets. Let's go game assets, bullet, invader, and hero for space invaders. Can we draw them free? Maybe subject to copyright. PNG egg. Is there any usage rights? This is so cool. Non-commercial use. This is pretty non-commercial. I'm not charging anybody. All right. We can try downloading one and simply see if this works. I'll let this ring for a minute. I might just start that new chat because I need to paste essentially the two files in. Can you modify the Space Invaders game below so that the invader has 10 lives and moves left to right? 10 lives, starts at the middle of the screen, starts in the middle of the X width, and moves left to right. All right. That's a good start. So I'll copy the index and it should understand what's going on. I don't even have to tell it anything. Okay. Modify your JavaScript for the invader to have 10 lives. So once that happens, this is pretty sad actually. I found a perfect, I can ask GPT-4 to find me game assets for this, but invader style left. Okay. Here we go. Copy code. That is pretty impressive if I only need to edit the JS file. Okay. You really got to time it, hey. Boom. That's my mom calling. Wow, my timing is pretty impeccable. But I think that was a miss because it checks collisions on... I think it checks collisions essentially on like the top left or bottom left corner. Yeah, I have to say I'm going to abandon the experiment. I don't need to respond to my mom because this is not perks of live streams. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to abandon this project. Crash and burn. Space Invaders with automated JavaScript generation didn't work. Let's try the same prompt in a slightly different context. Let's see if you can generate an explosion. Like a basic, that's a fairly basic animation. I think that another reason why this is failing is that Replit isn't working. Like this window here isn't a true reflection of what happens when the site should pop out. And because of that, I think that we're limited. I think there's I haven't really used other websites, but there's probably going to be 10 alternatives. And this is the downside of being in a live stream. So I will try one last thing before we wrap up. I'm going to try to generate an explosion with JavaScript. I'm going to use essentially the same prompt starter. I can go back up here, ignore everything that happened. Essentially try to do this. I would like you to generate an explosion at the center of a 500px times 500px screen. The explosion particles should be various emojis. And they should be scattered in random directions. Let's try this. I will delete the entire that. Goodbye. You were very disappointing. Okay, so it wants me to do 3 files this time. Okay, that looks a bit more promising. Copy code. Index.html. Here we go. CSS. I need to add a file. Okay. While I'm doing this, double check your code to see that the files are correctly referenced. Ding, ding, ding. What am I calling this? Yeah, that's what we're talking about. I can't copy that code, but that's fine. Styles. Well, we'll call it style then. And that's going to be script, fine. Copy code, styles.css, and script. All right. We're going to end here. Oh my God. The Space Invaders animation is still running. I will, wow, actually. Love it. Love it. Okay, I will make a change. This is it. It's a good way to finish. I'll just add a couple of changes. Make the window 700px by 700px and make a new explosion every time I press space. Should add an event listener for space. Ding, ding, ding. Explosion. That's pretty good. And the last thing I might try is just add gravity, which might be a step too far, but push it. See what happens. Okay. Key down, space. Excellent. You guys ready for this? Run. What? Okay. And as they go far, they kind of fade. That's, yeah, I'm digging it. All right. Well, I will eventually, I'll make another live stream and I will make Space Invaders. I will preload some assets so that we have a little bit of a head start. And then I will use this explosion because this is just awesome. All right. Maybe one last thing to try. Probably not going to work, but let's try it. Can you add some gravity with the way that the emojis move? They should fly in an arc. Okay, with that, I'm going to say bye to everybody. I will give this thing like a 20% chance of working. But that's kind of how you learn what it's capable of. You really got to try to push it, see what happens. Okay, so there is no explosion, position, transform, translate, ease out. I can't see CSS doing gravity. To have a particle reach half of its maximum Y, midpoint 50%, descends more rapidly from 50 to 100%. Wow. Okay. Purely CSS answer. I wasn't expecting that. I thought that you'd have to use JavaScript to do some math calculations, but will it even work? Here we go. Oh. Yeah, not exactly, but still kind of like a fun explosion. Okay. I will undo this last thing because, like predicted, wasn't an overwhelming success. I think this is not a private REPL. I mean, if I press release here, deploy your project. All right, whatever. Publish your project. Next. JS explosion. And I'll send this in the chat. Yeah, how about that? Won't even do the next thing. REPL name. Wow. Yeah, Replit isn't fully working, but this should eventually there. So this is it. The explosion project. And there is the chat. Okay. With that, to the 3 people here, I'd say thank you for hanging out. The next live stream is going to happen on Saturday morning, and we are going to be using GitHub Copilot Chat. So I've used GitHub Copilot a lot already, and the chat feature is essentially going to be like having ChatGPT inside GitHub Copilot, which is going to be pretty exciting. I might actually make a proper Space Invaders game that's going to be object-oriented. I found GitHub Copilot is absolutely awesome at like doing object-oriented architecture. It actually helps you structure your code even better. So I think that's going to be the project. I might try out Copilot midweek. Might be a casual stream if you catch it. I'm curious also to do the Copilot chat on making GoPrompt.io more secure and adding more input validation. I'm not sure I'm going to share the code for that, given that giving people access to that code makes the site less secure. So yeah, expect to see a Space Invaders game that's AI assisted. At the same time next week, it'll be pure coding stuff. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.